Welcome to Compression, the quest to $100 million in just 1 year. Join me, your host, Logan Freeman, in this one-of-a-kind interactive podcast experience where I am on a quest to compress 3 years of achievement and production into 12 months. And no, the answer is not to just work harder. I'm bringing you not only ideas and concepts that are complete at the theoretical level, but they're also effective at the applied level. Look, guys, knowledge is not power. It is potential power. Knowledge plus massive strategic action equals power. We're talking about strategy, systems, accountability, all in real time. This is Compression. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Compression. This is a very exciting opportunity for me to introduce a good friend. I don't even know what you call Jerome Myers to me. We've met in person, we met online. I was on his podcast a year ago. We've stayed in touch ever since, but it's more than a friendship. I'd say it's an accountability ship. That's a new word, accountability ship. And what I mean by that is I get a text message from Jerome every morning. He's an hour ahead of me. He's over on the east side of the United States. And he sends me a text, and it's a picture of him running 6 miles in an hour every single morning. If it's raining, if it's cold, if it's hot, whatever it is. And I first started following you, Jerome. You were running, or you were doing your walking videos. You hadn't started running that time yet, and we'll get into that. But what I wanted to do here today was, since you're going to be so involved on this new podcast and this new interactive podcast journey that we're going through, I figured we better introduce you. So why don't you give us some background, some history, who you are, Jerome, and we'll just see how long we can take this thing. I know all of this, and you guys, just so you know, there's how many podcast episodes? 150 out there now?
There's over 200 with me on them.
Okay.
A guess of about 70.
Over 200 podcasts that you can go check out if you want to even hear more. Jay has his own incredible podcast, if not like 3 other ones. I don't know how many he's got at this time. But Jerome, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us what the Red Pill is, what your journey's been like up to this point. I'm gonna play some devil's advocate and make sure to ask some really good questions.
Well, I think you know a story that most people don't know, but just at the highest level, guys, I'm a corporate America dropout, right? I did all the things you're supposed to do: get a good grades, get into a good school, get a good job, get married, have 2.5 kids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the reward for all of that was kind of the culmination of building a $20 million division for a Fortune 550. We get to the end of the year. It's Christmas Eve, and I'm on the phone with my supervisor, and he says, "Look, Jerome, I'm tired of arguing with you. We're going to lay him off. You can either be a part of the process or somebody can do it for you. I encourage you to engage because you've got to do this again." This being make another $20 million in revenue. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, we had 30% profit margin that year, and I'd never been the Axeman. And so I promised myself, in order to get through that traumatic experience, that I would never do it again. And so fast forward, we go to Thanksgiving of the next year. We're getting ready to send everybody home for break. And I'm standing in front of a room telling people, do not spend your paycheck on Black Friday, because I don't know what's going to happen after we come back from the holiday. And it was then that everything in me kind of spilled out on the floor, and I realized that this wasn't going to be it. I needed to take more control of my future, my life. And I started going back through all the stuff that I'd been working through since about 2010, where I went through this really dark period of redefining myself and questioning everything. And when I say everything was fair game, from religion to how I made money. And so I just went down that journey, Logan. And what I found was, in college, my sophomore year, I was sitting on the stoop with my buddy Duran, and we started doing math, because that's what engineering students do in their free time. And we realized that the guy that owned the complex was making 700 grand a year, and we never saw the guy. We never talked to him, but he figured out how to decouple his time from money. And the reason why compression is so interesting for me is because it's about condensing time and turning that condensed time into more revenue.
Right.
But there's this other element where you don't trade your time for money. And so I put that dream on the shelf because I'm the son of a soldier and a stay-at-home mom. And we didn't have those talks around the dinner table about how you buy real estate to produce income outside. I was taught you go get work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went down this path of how do we do this? And so I went to banks and knocked on 10 doors and got told no every time. And I went through, and it's like I got all this training and so on and so forth. And so I went and did some other stuff. And eventually I got into the apartment game. But the thing that I've been most passionate about was coaching. It's the development of people and places. That's my tagline. That's what I do. And working with cleaners, people who are extremely high performers, who when they look to the left and the right, they don't have anybody to go talk to. They don't have anybody to ask questions to. I bounce from one of those conversations to another every day of the week with the goal of being that outlet for them and being that thought partner for that person. And I think this is kind of how we ended up in this place where we're talking about compression, because you're one of those folks who I think is extremely high performer, a cleaner, right? Not a closer, not a cooler, but a cleaner.
That's right.
And in that, there's not a whole lot of people who can perform at that level. And so there's a lot of people who charge a lot of money, don't deliver a ton of value. And my whole thing is delivering more value than I ever charged for and being unapologetic about knowing that I'm delivering a tremendous amount of value to the people I work with. And so I'll pause there and see where you want to go from here.
Well, folks, you will start to understand we're going to be referring to specific thought leaders. And one of them that Jerome just pointed to is Tim S. Grover, the author of Relentless: From Good to Great to Unstoppable. Tim just released his second book is coming out, and it's called Winning. And I'm on the pre-order list, so I can't wait. I listened to I've been to Tim's program, Relentless. I forget what it's called, but it's fantastic. So a cleaner is someone who, is unapologetically focused on achieving. And when they do achieve something, they just move to the next one the next day. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They hold people to high standards, high accountability, but they hold themselves to the highest. And so Kobe Bryant was a cleaner. Michael Jordan was a cleaner. LeBron has shown cleaner mentality, but Dwayne Wade actually is the cleaner on that team. LeBron may have reached that yet. I don't know. I'd love to ask Tim Grover that. So just so folks know, we're going to refer to folks like that, David Goggins, Tim Grover, Jocko Willink on this podcast, because those are folks that are big influencers. Jerome, one thing I wanted to ask you was this idea of the red pill, because that's also what we're going to be referring to a lot. Help folks understand what the red pill is and how they can start to prescribe themselves the red pill, or can they prescribe themselves the red pill? I think they might need a coach, a doctor. Talk to us a little bit about the red pill.
Yeah, so the red pill is the code word for our model for a centered life. And the whole thought process is pretty simple, Logan. There's a whole lot of people who are pursuing balance, and balance doesn't exist. There is no progress in balance, right? And if you don't believe me, try to take a step with your weight equally distributed on both of your feet in balance. It just doesn't happen. You've got to shift from one place to the other in order to achieve balance. And I want people to be perpetually in motion. I want you to be perpetually moving to that next thing, that next state, that next accomplishment, achievement, whatever you want to call it. And so red pill has 6 levels. The first level is self-image. We believe that everything starts from within, whether it's a decision, whether it's your view of yourself, whatever it is, it all starts with you. From there, we move to relationships. Relationships are followed by the workplace or career. From there, we move up to health, followed by prosperity and significance. All of these things are sequential, right? If you try to be generous and give and give and give, and you don't have overflow, if you don't have prosperity, you will end up empty. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You will have a deficit. If you try to have prosperity and you don't have your health will steal all of your prosperity. The only true wealth is health. From there, the bottom three layers are what cause all the stress in your life. Your self-image, you do things that you aren't proud of, and so you do things that hurt yourself. That impacts your health. You have relationships that are toxic. You're working with people who you don't enjoy. That does things to you, and then in turn you do things to try to numb it, and in turn you hurt your health. And then the final thing is the workplace. A lot of us struggle on achievement and accomplishment and so on and so forth. And so that is the third and what I consider the final stressor, which then impacts your health. And so, we run up the 6 and we run back down the 6, and I don't care who you are, there's something in one of those areas where you're not optimally performing. And it's my ambition to help people work through those things that are performing at a high level, but don't just want to be high in one specific space. There's a whole lot of people who great in career. They can make a ton of money, but their relationships are a train wreck. They're selfish. And so they're having no impact on people outside of the folks that are directly tied to them. That isn't success for me. Right. There's a lot of people who are making a ton of money and their health is in the tank. And eventually all that prosperity is going to be sucked dry from the health. So we move through these concentric circles, but it's kind of stacked and adjusted so that you can see that there's progression through the model. And the last thing I'll say on this, Logan, is you have to take the red pill. It starts with you. A lot of people want the world to change and not change anything about themselves. And it just doesn't work that way. You have to be the change that you seek. And then in that, you attract the change in the world that you would like to experience. And so I'll put a pin there and see where we go.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, and we will be unpacking a lot of that on a lot of these other episodes. What I wanted to do is just get in the side of your mind just a little bit so folks understand how you're going to be thinking about this concept of compression and pushing and holding me to accountability and to the next level. And the reason, guys, that Jerome is on this podcast is because different perspectives is what allows you to move farther, faster. We all have blind spots. We do not see the world the way that it is. We see it as we want to see it. And so just if you don't believe me, just take a golf club and have somebody videotape you. You take that swing and, oh man, it feels sweet. You're just like, man, I'm the next Tiger Woods, baby, feeling good. And then you're like, all right, let me see that. Let me see that video. You look at it, you're like, oh, I'm Charles Barkley, man. Like I can't even swing that thing. And that's a perfect example of we see the world the way that we want to. And we have to have folks, if you want to achieve the next level, you have to have folks that are willing to ask you the hard questions, to hold you accountable, to make you think differently, to challenge your perceptions and your beliefs. Now, here's what I'll say about that. When you are a cleaner, you get to choose if you decide to listen to it or not. However, sometimes you're so focused, so in the weeds that you won't be able to even see a different perspective. And that's what's going to hold you back. And so, that's Jerome's role on compression here, guys. You're going to get to see a high level coach break things down from his perspective, how he's thinking about how many folks Jerome has coached over the years, man. I don't even know, but I do know quite a few of them, and they're all pretty high performing folks. So you're going to get exposure to all of these different thought processes, ideas coming into one framework. And that's what I'm excited about. Jerome, do you have anything to leave the listeners with today that maybe we didn't touch on? I don't want to get too deep because it's going to come out on the episodes. I don't want to give it all away, man. But if there's anything you want folks to know about you that we haven't covered, let's dive into that.
No, it's just one sentence, Logan. Your dreams should be real. Right?
Your dreams should be real. I love it. And there's one last thing I will say, because if anybody's going to need to be shut up on this podcast, it's going to be me, not Jerome. But one thing I have to say is there's not a lot of folks that will show up the same level or the same consistency that I will. And I do know one, and you got two on the screen here. You got two on this podcast. You know, just so you guys know, there's a big difference between somebody who has a massive platform because it has been architected to be a massive platform. And there's a difference between that and somebody who's a true thought leader that just hasn't hit that one right article, that one right podcast that has launched them into the stratosphere, but has the foundation that they're going to stay there. Jerome and I are so focused in the commercial real estate world that there's plenty of names that we could even mention. And maybe we will at some point. We won't do that the first step here. But their foundations are shaky. What they have built their business on is an illusion of perception of control, of leadership, that they're actually doing something, when in the real scheme of things, they're the best at click funnels and driving traffic to those funnels and grabbing people's dollars. You're not going to get that here. You're not going to get that here. There's nothing to sell you. There's nothing to funnel you into. What you're going to get here is two guys that have some big, hairy, audacious goals. And you're going to get the exposure of two people that are going to show up every single day. This guy on the screen right here runs 6 miles 5 days out of the week. Is it 5 or 7? I don't even know. Is it 5?
6.
6. Come on, man. It's raining. It's 34 degrees. This dude is running 6 miles. Then he gets back and does the kettlebell club workout, which you guys will learn about later. And then he says, yeah, I'll commit to you on this podcast, and we'll do this weekly. We'll bring the people what they want to hear because it'll be valuable. We'll grow it organically. It might not blow up 100,000, downloads first week, but you stumble across this podcast, you've stumbled across two guys that are ordinary dudes going to be doing extraordinary things. We're doing ordinary things with great love, as Mother Teresa would once say. So, Jerome, with that, I just want to say thank you. I could talk you up all day. I'm super excited about compression. I'm excited about what you've got going on, which we'll talk about a lot too in this, but that's it for today. I wanted to introduce my main man, Jerome Myers, and I will give you a shout out. If anybody needs any help thinking at a higher level, taking the red pill, understanding what the red pill is, you guys got to find this dude. He's on LinkedIn. He's everywhere. Been on 150 podcasts. If you do one thing next year, taking the red pill would be the best place to start. So with that being said, we're going to end this episode. Jerome, I really appreciate, man, your commitment, your authenticity, and just the individual that you are. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you. And this is going to be a fun ride. I'm super excited about compression.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next time. Hey, compressors. If something you heard struck you, made you feel a little bit uncomfortable, good. Head on over to compressionpodcast.com. And then you can also subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast at. If you feel inclined to, please leave us a review. It's obviously helpful. But instead, I'm going to call you out today. I'm going to call you out and make sure that you do your part, sharing this message by sharing it with one person that might need to hear what we talked about today. Be great. Nothing else pays.